So welcome back to the SWAU YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe and follow these amazing interviews that we're going to be doing in the weeks to come. But this week's guest, she's an actor, singer, dancer, stunt performer, suit performer, motion capture performer. She does everything. The list goes on. Is Misty Rosas. Misty, welcome to the show, my love.
Hello. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm very excited and happy to be here. So
Oh,
thanks for having me.
Do you know what? I am so excited because you've been involved in so many films, so many projects from Van Helsing, The Hunger Games, so many. There's one film actually I'm actually really excited to have you on to talk about because not so long ago I was chatting to Dylan Walsh about a wonderful film called
Yeah.
Congo, which is one of my favorite movies from yesteryear, and it still holds up now. It's just a fantastic film. And I was speaking to him about Amy the gorilla. And I was saying that, what an amazing job, whoever is in that suit. And then you're on the show, and I look at your IMDb, and you played Amy the gorilla, which is just amazing. So we're going to talk briefly about Congo. But before we do, I always ask the guests, what sparked you to go into this direction of the world of entertainment?
Oh gosh. I was brought up, raised with parents that had a great enthusiasm for movies and television. Um, I watched, Indiana Jones with my dad. My whole family went to see Star Wars together super young, so I don't remember much about it, but I remember the feeling is an energy. It was big and it
Mm.
was space and the music. It was, even for someone like me that was so young, almost too young to really understand the story, but the feeling, and I know that that is a line from so many of the movies. It's a feeling. Um, so it didn't seem like such a stretch for me to want to uh, move into the direction of performing arts. Strangely enough, it wasn't my childhood. My childhood was a big mix of in the early years of dancing and music and gymnastics, but then at a certain point, pretty much when I was about 8 years old, on gymnastics took a precedence over everything else because I was doing really well and excelling at it, and so singing and dancing and acting and that type of performance art, it kind of took a back seat for a while. But my gymnastics career is the reason I got hired for my first job, which was Congo. So it's all interconnected, and it has a formula that you never aren't necessarily always aware of. So
I mean, when we talk about the audition for Congo, I mean, what sort of audition did you do? Because it's quite a unique, sort of industry to get into in the way of suit performance. But it's one thing being in a suit, but it's another thing portraying a gorilla. So, what was the audition like? Because I read somewhere that one of the auditions, Stan Winston was there as well, which must have been crazy.
well, it was my first professional audition ever. So uh, as a rookie, I think in a lot of ways that was very helpful for me because I didn't know what I was doing as far as like what is this. And the coach that I trained with as an elite gymnast, he the production company had reached out to him because gymnasts, that body type is what they needed people under 5 feet tall, but also with longer arms and legs and a tremendous amount of strength and cardiovascular conditioning in order to handle, the guerrilla artist performance, because it is the hardest of all of the suit performance that I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know
So,
what? Do you know what? I completely agree. And I went to college and and university for performing arts, and I can remember one time we had a project where we had to pick an animal, and my favorite animal has always been a gorilla. So we had to go away and study the gorilla and study the movements and the sounds, and we had to come back and present it. And we had a guest presenter come in,
okay.
and he was one of the guys. I can't remember his name. He worked on Gorillas in the Mist, and he
Okay.
came in and he brought in these two arms that was used on one of the costumes, um, and it made you sort of sit up in a certain way, and then he taught me, because I chose a gorilla, on how to run across the room. Literally,
Mhm.
I needed at least, a day's rest. It is so hard. It really, really is. So, what was that movie like to actually work on? Because it must have been so fun, because you're surrounded. Because originally, I think I read that you were originally cast as one of the grey gorillas, which are
Mhm.
the really mean ones.
Yeah.
And then obviously you took on the role of Amy. I mean, what was that like to work on as a whole project?
Oh, it was exciting and overwhelming, because again, wasn't coming from a performance art school. Had no training in front of a camera, so it was a crash course in all things film production, as well as, learn training and learning how to move, breathe, feel your way through as a guerrilla performance artist, coordinate timing with the puppeteers who are off to the side of the camera, learning how to do this work blind in the fully functional animatronic heads. Yeah, it was the most exhilarating and overwhelming experience of my life, but again, uh, so beyond grateful for all of it, because it just, again, it was this crash course in you know filmmaking and being a part of such a huge production for such a long time. uh, it was a very good education.
I
So,
mean, when you mentioned blind, I mean, obviously the film, there are plenty of scenes where Amy is running, things are
mhm.
happening around. I mean, how much sort of field of view do you actually get, for your safety and the safety of others around? Because, things could go horribly wrong, especially with so
Mhm.
many moving parts going on set. I mean, what was your
Yeah.
field of view as Amy?
As well, in the animatronic head, there's no vision. You have to learn how to. It's hard to explain. Like, feel in your body. We were fortunate to have Peter Elliott and John Alexander teaching us, and they were both there on set with us every day. And so they were like a second pair of eyes, but it is up to you in the suit to learn how to hit marks, and not necessarily. And then again, if they would open the mouth really wide, you could see, but you can't do that in the scene unless she's screaming. So it's a it's a memory, like
Mm.
a sense memory that you have to learn how to create, which again I'm grateful for, because on The Mandalorian, the Frog Lady as well, which most people didn't know, I was blind in that as well, so I had that skill set. Um, but also too, for productions like Congo or Instinct, where there is a lot of physical work as well. We had different heads to wear. And there was also the stunt head, which did have a little bit of visibility for me on either sides of the cheeks, but obviously nothing, looking straight ahead. And when we put the head on, our eyes are at the, level of the mouth. So if
Mm.
they open the mouth, you can see us. So what that means is you've got to tilt your head way down in order for the eyes to be, tracking properly, and your field of vision and things is on the ground. So yeah,
That is just
it's a lot.
incredible. You know what? We watch these films, we enjoy them, and many audience members don't realize the amount of work and commitment and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It is really
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, you know, performed alongside Dylan Walsh and Tim Curry. I mean, I'm sure there's some stories to tell. I mean, what was it like on set with those actors?
Oh, just because I was so brand new to it, and not necessarily in the Hollywood crowd, they were just these really nice people, extremely talented people, and I would often watch. I would go, to Video Village and watch how they would work and take the words from the script and make it their own, as they brought it to the screen. So again, that was an important education for me too. Um, Tim Curry, he bonded with us. And I just he's just one of my favorites because he had a Tetris, and he would let me play with his Tetris and sit in his chair. Sometimes, when we had a break and he didn't, and that was just one of my fondest memories. It's like, here's this superstar that was just so humble and sweet and caring, and all of them, they were very protective, as most, very pretty much all of the actors are that we that I've worked with. They always check in. It's like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And obviously I have a team, so I never do, but just that little extra mindfulness from all of these superstar actors, it's pretty incredible.
And that is why Tim Curry will always be a legend in my book. He really will.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, it wasn't such a bad experience for you because you went on and worked on Instinct with
Hmm.
you know, Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that it was working on this that really gave you that spark to actually pursue acting?
Yes.
Seeing Anthony Hopkins do what he does best.
Yes. I had from Congo, it just seemed like a very easy transition into stunt work. I was a gymnast, so I had that skill set and my height and stuff. So, but when we got cast in Instinct, and I remember like we were in Florida, it was like a transition from the rehearsal period with Legacy Effects, which still at that time was Stan Winston Studios. A rehearsal here in Los Angeles was a few weeks, and then our whole unit moved to Florida for about a week for the whole production to kind of get, um, ready to go to, Jamaica. And our team was in a huge conference room, and we were rehearsing everything that we had worked out back in LA. And I just remember one day, um, we were not necessarily rehearsing at the moment, more screwing around, and suddenly we saw our director, John Turtletop, come in, and Hunt Lowry, one of the producers, and then this gentleman that we'd never seen before. And it was Anthony Hopkins. And so John's like, hey guys, um, Tony just wants to get a feel for all of you and how you work together, what your guerrilla troupe is, and who is who without you telling him, but more through your movement. And, he's just going to kind of watch you. And then when he feels ready, he's going to try to, come into your group, and you all just obviously react the way that you would. And it was just the most powerful moment of this phenomenal actor that he was just in it. And obviously, my friend Garen, who was the silverback, and my friend David St. Pierre, who was one of the blackbacks, they are the protectors of our troop. And it was just this really beautiful kind of flow of what it would feel like for this guerrilla troop to, one, be introduced to a stranger, and two, slowly decide to let him into our family. So, and he was just so invested, and again, a gentleman. The moment I decided that I wanted to go to acting class was when we were in Jamaica, and I was watching him go from 0 to 1,000% of emotion in a matter of like 3 seconds. It's like he just stood in the center of this chaos that was about to ensue in the scene, and I was like, where did that come from? And it was just, obviously, as the story builds and the music is a part of it and the relationships are established, take this journey. But in that moment, for a few seconds, this phenomenal actor, he just made you feel something. And I was like, whoa, I want to learn how to do that.
Do you know what? I can remember the first time I ever saw Instinct. It's such a great movie. I can remember I was on American Airlines going to New York for the very first time, and they had upgraded me to business class. And back then, they provided you with tapes. So for all the youngsters watching, it's pre DVD. And I can remember watching it, and it was just an amazing movie. It really, really was. And then you moved to LA, as all aspiring performers do. I mean,
Mhm.
I have never been to LA. I might be going over to LA Comic Con.
Okay.
And we all think that LA has got streets paved with gold and all your dreams are going to come true. I mean, what was that experience like? Because I know that some people, say that it's completely the opposite.
Yeah, you have to really want it for very personal reasons. It was my acting teacher. I was taking acting classes down in Orange County at a college, and he told all of the students that he could tell that always came in prepared and just wanted to do the work, that if you're serious about this, you have to be in Los Angeles. You have to move there. You've got to be in it with all of the other artists that are in it. Go in 100%. So I was like, okay, I'm going to. I just remember my mom and dad, my family helped move me up to Los Angeles. And then my first night there, I was very scared because the police helicopter was circling, because I lived in Hollywood when I first moved to Los Angeles. And the strobe light was like kind of, shining into my space. And I'm just like, oh, what is happening? And, thinking in the back of my head, maybe this was a mistake. But my parents, they really did so much to help me get there. And I was like, no, you're staying, just, it's going to be okay. And, you have to hustle. You have to hustle to pay for your headshots and all of the sites that you need to be on, pay for your classes, acting class, dance class, voice class, and a little bit of food. And so it is a hustle like nothing else. And so again, I always encourage people, if you really want it, it can happen, but you just have to stay the course, and you have to really fight for it when everything is going wrong and you have about 2 cents in your bank account. But that's also how you'll know, like, I'm doing the thing that I want, that I'm passionate about, because you won't give up on it. You find a way.
and this is why the strikes recently were so important, because you know you know performers go through a lot to get to where they are now,
Mhm.
and it's important that they get treated fairly. But I am hoping that when I come over to LA, I get the full LA experience. I want to see at least one helicopter. I've been watching Cops on TV. I want the full experience. I mean, when starting out, did you have a plan in place? When you decided, this is for me. Did you have a plan in place in what you wanted to achieve and who you wanted to work with? And projects that, like, dream projects that wanted to work on.
Um, when I first moved up, I, was very actually more passionate about dancing. And literally the day after I moved up, I did research and I found the Edge Performing Arts Center and started dance classes literally that night. And again, it was very important because one of the teachers that I found there, Terry Best, um, she the songs that she choreographs to and the type of choreography, and it's lyrical jazz, which is very ballet foundation. That's the base. I was like, oh, I found my heaven. Like it's an all-encompassing experience of the music, the choreography, and your body and dancing, and very therapeutic in a lot of ways too. That was my first dream, was to audition, like, give myself a year to train every day, and then audition for all of the agencies. And when that time came and I auditioned for all of them, I got no's because of my height. Short dancer height is 5'2" to 5'4", like that's the cutoff, and I'm 4'9", so I am way below, and that was like heartbreaking, and yet super important for me. So then I just kind of shifted again, and throughout all of this time, I'm working on different shows, doing stunt work, and then working at the Jim Henson Company. Um, and it's almost like when that dream felt like it passed me by, I began production on Sid the Science Kid. And we ended up, because I am a dancer and it's part of the way that my puppeteer Drew Massey and I would fuse, is we would do dance shows like in between. He would like play a song from his puppeteering rig and I can hear it, and we would just do, and the producers and directors kind of started watching that and they really liked it, and so little by little, they would add dance performances in the show, and Mandy Moore came to choreograph us one day, which again, my mind exploded and my heart exploded because I watched So You Think You Can Dance, and I've been so inspired by her choreography and the pieces that she created. I was just like dying, and it's like, so regardless of some outcomes in some of the dreams you pursue, it's not like they go away completely. There's a timing, when it comes to all of that. And if you're passionate about something and you really love it, just do it for you first, and then you'll be surprised how other, avenues are presented. So,
I mean, we're
yeah.
going to talk about the Mandalorian in a second, but what's been your driving force? Because it hasn't been an easy process for you, and it just sounds like you've taken every challenge and turned it upside down. So what has
Yeah.
been that that driving force that has kept you going?
I would say that it is love, um, and joy. Because again, yeah, my life for sure has not been linear. It's not like I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. It's been peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. Um, and again, it's a feeling. I didn't take to acting class up in LA until a little bit later. I worked on a movie called Altered with Brad William Hinkey. And when we got back to Los Angeles, he's like, when are you coming to my acting class? Like he, had a small group of students in a small acting school. And I was like, I'm not, I'm too scared. Um, and so he hounded me, I think for a good 2 months, every single day. Just as like call and leave a message or a text. When are you coming to class? When are you coming to class? I'm like, I'm not. And finally he just wore me down and I went to class and I wanted to die. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. And it felt different because it's Los Angeles and it's all, professional actors here and they've come from performance arts schools all over the country and the world. I'm like, what am I doing? But yet, as scary as it was, I've learned from that those super scary things that challenge you, that you feel like you're failing at, they're really, really important. And then I kind of got the hang of it and I loved it. And it's part of where I've been working towards and where I'm going next, which, for me is comedy. So
Awesome. I mean, doing it for the right reasons, doing it because you love it, you know, will outshine everything else. I mean, you get people that just want to do it
yeah.
just for the fame or for the recognition. But if you love what you're doing, I suppose it never feels like a like a job. And talking about Brad, what a loss.
Hmm.
I chatted with him about a year and a half ago, and he was such a character. I only planned to chat to him for about 45 minutes, and 3 hours later, he was
Yeah.
just still chatting away. He was such an
Yep.
awesome guy. He really, really was. So let's talk about the Mandalorian. And one thing I've got to say is the name of the character people always get wrong. They always
Hmm.
apologize for pronouncing it wrong. So is it Queel or Quill?
Hmm. Queel.
Queel.
Hmm.
And what a character it
Yeah.
is. I mean, honestly, I mean, Mandalorian kickstarted Disney Plus around the world,
Yeah.
kickstarted Star Wars on the television. I mean, how did that role come about for you? Because that must have been an epic moment in your life to become part of the Star Wars universe. So, how did you find out about the role? And how did the audition happen? I mean, it's Lucasfilms. I mean, how secretive was it?
Oh, super secretive. My agent, got a call from production, and and again, it's one of those things where my life was in an entirely different direction. I was really focused on music and creating more opportunities to be an opening act for different bands. And my agent's like, hey, there's this production that do you have a current demo reel of all of your suit performance work? And I was like, no, I don't. It's like, that's not the direction I've been, going in. And I was like, I have clips. And again, and I'm mortified. I can't believe I did this because I'm sure my boss, John Favreau and Dave Filoni, they're like looking at all of these random clips that I'm sending because it was not in a demo reel format. And finally, after a couple go rounds of that, they're just like, they're like, well, they want to see you for an audition, for a cold read audition. It's like, okay. I was like, sure, it's something that I hadn't necessarily prepared for. So I was a little nervous, but there was also something, again, it felt kind of like fate, that I was like, I have to go to this audition just because the day of my audition, I don't, some people know, some don't. I'm severely hearing impaired. And the my left ear is my stronger ear, but I also wear a hearing aid in that ear. And things went like horrifically wrong, and they would not put my hearing aid back in. So I was kind of relying on my right ear more, which is, it's not good. I called my agent ready to cry after my doctor's appointment. It's like, hey, I know I have this important audition today, but I want you to know, like, I'm not sure if I should do it. It's a cold read, so I'm gonna be needing to really be able to hear and listen to whoever I'm reading with, and I can't hear. And she's like, I was like, what should I do? And Heidi, my agent, she's like, just go to your audition. I know you want to, and if you can't hear them, just ask them to speak up. And I was like, that sounds simple, but I think for someone like me and many others with, hearing loss, there's a shame thing involved in
Mm.
that, and an embarrassment of, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. But I was like, it didn't matter. For some reason, this audition, it felt like I needed to be there. So I asked my agent as well. It's like, can you see if I could go early? And she called and they're like, yeah, sure. And so I showed up an hour early because I wanted to like get the script and be as prepared as I could possibly be with the dialogue, and also whoever was reading with me with their dialogue, just in case I needed to read their lips. So it felt like it was off to not the greatest start. But when I got into the waiting room and signed my NDA, and they handed me my script, I just sat down and I like to just read through it once just to get a feel for, what it is. And I sat back for a second after reading through and it's like, oh my goodness, I know this character. And the reason I felt like an affinity with the character was from my little side job, which is teaching yoga. So again, all of these things that you do that are about passion, that are about love, that are about selflessness, they find their way to kind of interweave through, your great love and professional life too. So yeah, I didn't know what I was auditioning for. There were no names. They even changed the words of, like, I remember they didn't have the word blurg in there, which I wouldn't have known anyway. um, but yeah, I went in and because it felt so much like a part of me that I've been, you know, um, working at as just a person in progress, it felt very natural, to say the words. And, of course, the line I have spoken was in the dialogue. And the way that you deliver that, I'm sure that's how they kind of knew if somebody understood the
Mm.
depth of this character or they did not. So, and then I didn't hear anything, but I remember walking away from the audition and calling my agent and just being proud that I even tried for it, and like kind of got teary eyed and was just so excited for the opportunity. And regardless of whether I got it or not, I just wanted to thank her for the support. And yeah, then I think it must have been a month and a half or so later is when my agent called again. She's like, hey, where are you? And I was like, in my car driving to work out. And she's like, okay, you need to pull over. I'm sending you something. And it was my deal memo. And so I'm on the side of the road in Los Angeles, just, parked. And I read it. And at the very bottom, it said Lucasfilm and Star Wars. And I lost my mind.
Ah,
I was just like, oh
wow.
my God, what? So, yeah, it was me by myself in my car, just having a glorious private crying and, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me moment. So,
That must have been such a surreal moment. I mean, obviously you get the role. Were you, with the NDA, was you allowed to tell anyone, any close family, that you had the role, and how long did you have to wait to tell people?
I told my mom and my younger brothers, because again, my little bros and I, we grew up with Star Wars. So it was a big deal. And obviously, I didn't tell them anything about my character or anything about the show, which is, hard because they were so excited. But it was obviously really gratifying when it finally came out and they could watch it. And it was, it blew people's minds. So, yeah.
It did.
But no, I didn't say anything.
Oh, well, you
So,
know what? If it was me, I would have blurted out everything. I'm really, really bad, but I'm sure Lucasfilms have got a very good NDA and people watching you around the clock. Making
yeah.
sure who you're talking to and what you're saying, tapping your phones. But the character Queel, is voiced by Nick Nolte, which is again another
Hmm.
legend, screen legend. Which I'm still astonished that he nearly became Superman, which I'm glad
Hmm.
never happened because he's better in other roles. But how
Yeah.
does the shooting work? So you're on set, you're in this magnificent suit that the quality of it is just stunning. It really, really is because obviously with 4K now, things have got to become a lot better because we see the imperfections and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how does it work with you on set? Is his voice played out so you can hear it?
Yeah.
So you're doing the actions to the voice. I mean, how does that process work on set?
Um, yeah, they put speakers around the set so that the other actors that weren't in a Mandalorian helmet or any other type of suit, they could hear you. They could hear Queel, and I had four, three, sometimes four puppeteers that my team that was just off side of camera, as well as my friend David Covarrubias, who he was in charge of being at the computer board with the lines. And so between Dave, Jason, and Roderick and myself, it's like kind of, I don't want to call it choreography because it's not that, because if we moved through the scenes like that, it wouldn't look organic.
Hmm.
So yeah, the first few takes would obviously sometimes be, the timing of all of us together would be slightly off, and as we got a feel for um, the the scene and the beats and the tempo, then it kind of fused together. But yeah, I had an earpiece in my ear, and my whole team had earpieces or headsets. Yeah, the speakers were around the set so that everyone who didn't have an earpiece, they could hear. And yeah, little by little, it we my team and I've been fortunate to have worked with them on different projects, so we have a rapport already as far as um, creating these types of characters that involve a suit performer and a puppeteer. And also too, we were so excited and proud to have this opportunity. We always showed up to set early, and we would have a powwow, just our team, so that I could share with them my thoughts about how I would want it to go, and sometimes I would give them physical, cues that they could see to know when, we're starting a line. And then we just, we were really focused. We didn't, screw around too much. It was very much this really disciplined, focused effort to give this character everything we got because he had such a short time on screen. So we wanted him to be memorable. So, yeah.
I know. Do you know what? That was so heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking. It really was. I mean, before we talk about that, I mean, with the actually out with the outfit, I mean, how long did it take you to get into the suit? I mean, was it a long process or did you fine tune it after a while?
It's not a long process because it's an animatronic head. Legacy again is they're just extraordinary. It was like a big gigantic unit because they had to figure out how to put all of the wires, that bring his facial movements to life. That was all behind my head and neck and back, and placed in the backpack with the board. So the backpack and the head, that was all one unit that, came down and came onto my head and shoulders. The morning, it took a little bit longer because they would have to put the base makeup on that matched the blend of his skin around my eyes. And then I would, they would also give me a few moments once they put the contacts in to let my eyes kind of settle. Um, so I would say it takes about 30 minutes, so not too long. So, yeah.
And if you had to just, describe to someone the feeling of being in that suit, because I mean, how hot was it? I mean, could you breathe? You know, what was the whole experience like having it on?
Quill was unique because that, like, his face is also my face in a lot of ways. Those are my eyes. So the face itself had to be it was super tight right against my face, which definitely made my intake of CO2, because it was right against me,
Mm.
more challenging. And it was heavy. And of course, all the wires right behind my neck, that was intense. So it was more uncomfortable and kind of heavy. Not always too hot, because fortunately he just had regular clothes rather than like in some of my other costumes where there are very thick layers, and sometimes there's a muscle suit and a hair tech suit on top of that. So, that was helpful. But again, the backpack on my back and everything being super tight, like I had to stay super calm and really quiet and just conserve every ounce of energy I had to give it to him, when the cameras are rolling. So
Mm.
we had a couple of moments when Brendan and I had to do off camera lines. And then finally, people kind of got a sense of my actual personality, which is very kind of bubbly, and it's about a lot of laughter and, chattiness. And not super helpful for production. Like, it was a few moments when Brendan and I got to just kind of have fun, and, yeah, we got it together, but it took a moment.
And then we talk about how, what happens to him, towards the end of his journey on the show. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. I mean, obviously, if anyone's not watched the show yet, I don't know what they're doing. They need to watch it if they haven't. But I'm jealous of anyone that hasn't watched it, because they can binge all the episodes.
Right?
Because I was one
Yeah.
of the ones that had to wait every week to watch
Yeah.
it, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
So how far in advance did you know about Quill's journey, and what were your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I knew right away because once I got cast, it started to move really fast as far as scheduling rehearsals with Dave Filoni and Deb Chow and Rick Famuyiwa. So yeah, they sent me my scripts, and the moment they sent them to me, I opened them up right away on the computer to just dive in to this character. Because again, I really wanted to give this everything that I had. And so, yeah, chapter 7, I'm reading, and it's like, again, so excited and proud and happy to be a part of it. And I got to that last moment, and I like literally stopped. And I was like, for a moment, I'm like, Wayne, did I read that right? And I turned the page back and read it again and just like put my script down. And it's like, no, I had a moment of tears, and yet too, I was super, I was excited to bring this character to life, and very proud of the fact that, he again gave his all to Mando and to Grogu, because he believed so much in both of them. And so to, have that type of a hero's journey, that meant a lot to me. I was really bummed, but also too, I understood, that for Mando's arc and for him to want to continue on his journey, oftentimes you have to lose something,
Mm.
that is so devastating and heartbreaking, that the reason you continue is a lot of times to honor the memory of, someone that gave so selflessly. So yeah, so I understood it. I
Mm.
think during production, there were conversations stuff too of, are you sure, John, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, yes, it's a part of the story. It's the story. And he's like, I understood. I was fine with it. But yeah, people on that day of shooting that scene, I think we had a skeleton crew. It was very kind of somber, and
Mm.
people are just like, what is happening? So yeah, yeah, it was hard. And Deb came up to me and she's like, well, nobody wants this,
Mm.
but this is an important part of the whole of the story. So I'm like, I know, I'm all in for it. So yeah.
Well, we'll mourn his loss, and he'll always be remembered. He really will. But you didn't stop at just playing one character. So in season 2, you play another character. I mean, when you signed on, did you realize that you were going to continue, portraying such great characters in this universe?
Nope. I was like, and then again, I think that was part of my tremendous sadness is you know, felt like, oh, I just got to the Star Wars universe. This is just a dream come true and a dream job for me. I don't want to be done so soon. But I was like, well, it is what it is, and I trust my journey. And so I went on my merry way, and then I got a call from Legacy, I think first. They're like, hey, um, there's another character that John's working on that, would you be up for it? And I was like, what is it? And not that I would say nah, but I was like, sure, yeah, what's the character? And it's like, oh, well, she's a little frog lady. And I'm like, okay. And part of me too is like, is that a dare or a double dare to, bring this character to life? And it's like, okay, I'm in. And so I went down and we kind of did screen tests with her as well to kind of find, um, I don't know, like I guess her energy in a way. But the way that I work too, it's very important to have the story and the dialogue because I find her energy and you know who she is by the words that John writes. So,
I
yeah.
mean, she is probably the sweetest character in the Star Wars universe. I just love the frog lady. I've got the T-shirt on right now.
I
As,
know, I
as you
see
can see
that.
there from SWAU.com, get yourself the T-shirt. Represent the frog lady. I mean, it's just such a beautiful storyline. Obviously, Grogu is very naughty. He's a bad baby. Um, I mean, what were your thoughts when you found out that Grogu was actually going to be eating the frog lady's, offspring?
He's a baby. Um, his journey has not been one of nurturing, or kindness or love. It has been, battle ridden and about survival as well as Mando. Um, so I knew, and I also was kind of, that's I really used that as well as far as how I kind of portrayed her and approached certain things, like even when I was in the pond and he's like trying to reach, and man, I was like, no, I didn't even, look at him because, and of course people are like, did you think she knew? And it was like, she's a mom, she knows, but she also knows he's a baby, and the only way to really teach someone a lesson is by allowing them their choices and their actions, and it comes full circle. Um, and so, yeah, he just was in survival mode. Mando didn't know how to be a father yet, and he was pointing at the big giant steak thing on the spigot, and he was hungry, and so he just goes about and only knows what he knows. It's like, I'm hungry, so I'm going to find something to eat. So yeah, and again, I mean, I felt bad that I know, just from performance, what I gave to her and the love and intensity, it made people feel. So I know a lot of women were or are still very upset, and I'm just like, well, again, he's a little baby, and the scene at the very end that wasn't part of the original script, but I'm so glad that they put it in, because it gave, Grogu again that opportunity too to um, experience the full circle of life, and to also
Mm.
experience the family unit, to be with these, beings that are, it is a genuine kind of love. Frog Lady is a mama, and I loved getting to be that for him. And of course I couldn't see, um when, and I couldn't hear that well, so when I got to see the end when Mando takes him and he does not want to go, and he's like trying to hold on to the little bowl. It's like, it was, obviously heartbreaking, but also very sweet because, he just wanted to be with a family,
Mm.
and not be afraid or have people trying to, kill him. So,
But talking about sweet, I think the sweetest scene with you was when you find your husband,
mhm,
and that moment there, and you run up to each other. It's
yeah.
very hard to sort of relate to characters that aren't human. And
Hmm.
the great thing about Star Wars, they do a magical thing that they pull you in, and these characters and these creatures that aren't human, they have such a human side to them
Yeah.
to make you feel, which I think is magical. It really, really is. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, being part of the Star Wars universe, you go to many conventions and you meet many
Yeah.
fans. What does that mean to you? Because that must be such a great experience for gratification in the way of seeing the fans talking to them. I mean, have you got any favorite fan in interactions that you can talk about?
I am always blown away, especially by the fans, that create their own cosplay. And especially for my characters, that's not easy. And they come to the conventions, and obviously, they're like, it's hot, it's heavy. And so I always make sure it's like, are you hydrating? Do you need anything? And those interactions, yeah, it is. It's special. And I always make sure I try to have a little something for them extra.
Mm.
Um, because it's new for me, so it was overwhelming at first. But of course, like, I'm always just, gracious, and it took me a while to get used to just the fact that they would get so nervous as well. And it's like, it's just me. I'm such a dork. You know, there's nothing to be nervous about. So, yeah, no, I mean, just. I don't know. I don't know if I've fully taken that in yet because I'm actually going to Spain next Wednesday, and really, uh, I don't think any of us have very much been in that region. And so there's people already messaging on Instagram and stuff and showing me their costumes. So it's like, wow, yeah, I'm excited. There will be a language barrier, but it's going to be great because my friend Bernard, who plays the father of the Mandalorian, he will be there. And this whole little event kind of, for me, the invitation came about because I went on, it was like the Star Wars collector's card. It was an Odyssey last year that ended in February of this year, where my friend Matt from the Force Geeks podcast. He's part of the Star Wars card collectors as well. And he helped me to get one of Bernard's cards. And I just wanted to surprise him and send the card to him in Madrid, Spain. So I sent it the first time in June, end of June last year, and he never got it. And I was just super sad. But I also had this belief and this faith that is like, this wasn't about getting something for anything. Again, it was just a kind of a selfless, love thing of wanting to do something nice for somebody. And so it's like, well, hopefully somewhere someday it'll find
It'll
its way
just
back
turn
to
up.
me. And sure enough, it did.
Did
It
it?
turned back up to my house in I want to say early December. Yeah, it was like the first week of December. And I was super excited. I was like, oh my God, it's back. And so then a good friend of mine, Alina, fortunately her dad is from Spain, and she helped me because we did not put the address down correctly. And so there was a couple of back and forth with her dad, and I just decided to write it out with my own penmanship. And didn't say anything to Bernard because we just figured it got lost, and that was the end of that. And sent it again, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe he'll get it by Christmas time, and he didn't. And I was sad again. I was like, did it get lost again? And then, randomly in mid February, he finally got the card. And so, of course, we had to share all about this card's trips to Spain and back to Los Angeles and back to Spain. And then the coordinator of the event for next week saw our story and liked it and invited me to come along. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Do you know what? You're going to absolutely love Spain. I lived in Spain for a little while, just over a year. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful country. It really, really is. And I've got to say, your autograph is one of the most beautiful autographs I've seen. There are stars
Aw.
out there that I've often said that the old age actors and actresses, their autographs were amazing, and then with
Mm.
with modern actors now, it's like they're losing touch with the
Mm.
penmanship. But yours is amazing. It really, really is. So fingers crossed, I get to meet you one day, and I get
Yes.
you to sign a few things. But before we bid farewell, have you kept any mementos from the shows? Were you allowed to keep anything?
No. No. I am jealous because my friend Jason, like one of the things that I would want are Quill's goggles. But he has them obviously because he doesn't technically have them. They're at Legacy Effects. So, um, but no, I don't have anything. I'm afraid to take anything. So I think when they were this is all things from Legacy, I maybe pulled like one little, I don't even know what it is, but they had Queel's, it was like his work vest or something, and they were switching things up for the characters for season 3. And I think I asked if I could, from Legacy Effects, like, can I have one of these? And they're like, sure. We don't know what it is either. It's like, okay, that's good. So just a little something.
Well, to be honest, you've worked hard for it, and I can't see
I
any
think so.
reason why you shouldn't be the caretaker of all of that
Yeah.
in your house,
Of a
and of it,
trinket.
yeah, exactly. I mean, with the news of the Mandalorian and the Grogu movie in the works, if you got another phone call, how quickly would you say yes?
Oh, in about a split second. Yeah, no, I was like, well, we didn't tell you what you're doing. It's like, I don't care. So, yeah, I would die. Again, growing up with the movies and uh, just having that feeling of, and again, not knowing anything about anything, but watching, because the second movie, my little bros and I, we were a little bit older, and I was already into my gymnastics training. Like I started training as a gym, not training, but my very first gymnastics class was when I was 2.5. So, by the time I was 6 years old, I had been in it for a while, and watching Luke Skywalker do front tucks and, balancing and doing one arm handstands. And in my little, adolescent brain, I'm like, "Oh, I could be a Jedi." So, yeah.
Aw. Well, Misty, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. For everyone watching, don't forget to hit subscribe. I will put all of Misty's social links in the video below. And join us next week for a excellent interview, as always. And in the words of Queel, I have spoken. So, Misty, any last words that you want to tell everyone that's watching right now?
Oh, goodness. Listen to your heart, your dreams, and the life that you want to live. It's worth it, and you're worth it. And just enjoy the journey. Don't rush it. Trust that there's a divine timing, and it's not linear. So, whatever it is you love to do that, because on a daily basis, that elevates not just your spirit, but all of us, as a whole, the force. um, and this is the way.